Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new solo challenge, Pokemon Legends Arceus. For this game we are playing as a boy with our name being Keel. After telling the mysterious voice our name, we find ourselves washed up on a shore in front of three of the goodest Pokemon starters out there, Cyndaquil, Rowlet, and Oshawott. I won't bore you with all of the details, but we are going to be tasked with catching the three starters. First up is going to be Oshawott. Then we're going to snatch up Cyndaquil. And finally, Rowlet. Now, we get tasked with catching three Pokemon in the Obsidian Fieldlands known as Bidoof, Starly, and Shinx. Before we head out that way, however, we get to have our first Pokemon of the region. Without any hesitation, I'm going to pick the best boy, Cyndaquil. Not just because of the Hisuian Typhlosion, and also it being October, but also because it's so cute and adorable, and I love it. On our way out of town, Volo hits us up with our first battle of the game. The battles in this game are going to flow so much differently than any other Pokemon game in history. Speed is more important than ever before due to sometimes getting multiple turns in a row. I'm going to show you the nature at the end of this fight. But in the meantime, the only attack we have at the moment is Quick Attack. I don't think you can lose this fight personally. Either way, Volo loses and we move on to what our nature is. Cyndaquil is naive, which increases speed but decreases special defense. In this game, that is probably one of the best natures we could receive. With that in mind, our first mission goes off without a hitch. Bidoof gets caught first, Starly from the bushes, and it's good! Finally Shinx, who we have to initiate a battle in order to catch. Easy peasy. With those three in tow, we get our first uniform change to the Galaxy Expedition and finally become one of them. Silene decides we need a hat to keep our messy hair in order, and all in all, it's a nice looking outfit. Just don't get too attached to it since we're going to change to a better one before long. Our next mission is mainly going around the Obsidian Fieldlands and completing as much of the Pokédex as possible. That also doesn't mean I won't gather up resources as well, like tree and mineral drops. Also got to annoy the neighbors at least once while we were out and about. Working up quite a sweat, Akari grants us the crafting kit, and finally we are able to craft on the go. Don't worry, those solo battles are coming. Just it takes a little while to get to them from the beginning. In the meantime, how about we give that Cyndaquil a nice little nickname? He is going to be now known as the boy. Akari saw how awesome we did and just wants to battle us. With Pikachu in hand, this should be an easy fight, right? Turn order is completely different, I'm going to remind you. And Pikachu will attack first and paralyze the boy with Thundershock. Paralysis is basically like the main game, where there's a chance of not using moves and it reduces speed. That's the main killer, is reducing speed. Unfortunately, we get the short end of the stick and got the can't use move not once, but twice in a row. So yeah, Pikachu destroyed us without it even taking a single point of damage. Here's the kicker. You don't actually have to win this fight to proceed with the story. While it sucks we get no experience from it, all is not yet lost. With that behind us, we gain access to basically the move learner of the game. All we have to do is pay a flat fee and we can learn the move that the fee is associated with. Right now, I only pick up Aerial Ace and Swift. Once the Pokemon learns these moves, it's with you for all time unless you release it. Now we go into the menu and change out our moves to replace Rollout with Aerial Ace and add in Swift. As time goes along, Cyndaquil is going to learn new moves that gets added here, and even master them as well. The rest of the funds goes to getting the outfit we're going to be wearing the entire game. It's the Cyndaquil version of the outfit that is available after you get access to the move learner. This is by far the best outfit in my opinion. Not biased at all. Say hello to Mai, our first warden, and one of the strongest trainers out there. Why do you ask? She has a Munchlax that knows Rollout, and we'll use it every turn. Needless to say, it won't take long for the boy to go down if rollout is used right. We start off with Ember and do very little damage to it. Not even getting a burn, which would decrease its attack. Rollout comes out and does massive damage. We are a 2-shot from rollout, even without it being powered up. Next turn we try an Aerial Ace and it does a bit more damage than the Ember did. But Munchlax connects with the second rollout to take our poor boy down. It's time for a major grinding spree here and even trying some different attempts. Finally, after reaching level 21, I take a chance with a strong style Ember. It actually burns the Munchlax, which greatly reduces its attack. Munch went for an Agile style rollout, which only did 16 damage. Since it did Agile style, it's going to get another turn and does it again, dealing double the damage it just did. I take a minute to assess the situation and look at the handy dandy action order to see the boy is getting a double turn with basically any move I choose. Aerial Ace deals enough damage to take it down in one hit range. And we decide to show our rage for the grind we just did by strong style embering the Munchlax to oblivion. I don't know about you, but I wish Kricketune had been a guardian deity. That would have made its cry so much more epic. With it being an alpha Pokemon, it's actually quite deadly of a bug as well. Aerial Ace will 2-shot the boy if we are not careful. A lot of the battles in this challenge will show me looking at the turn order to see what will happen if a certain move is selected. In this one such case, Agile Style Ember gives the boy a super effective hit and an additional turn. Of course, since it's not the deity, it gets Strong Style to be knocked out. With that Alpha Gamer out of the way, we meet up for the first time with the clan leaders, Adaman and Irida. After some very long exposition, we are handed down the mission to quell the fury of the first noble Pokemon of the Pearl Clan. Now with all of that finally out of the way, we get to head back into the Obsidian Fieldlands and make our way towards the Grand Tree Arena where Leon the Warden resides. We must fight against his Gumi in order to earn his help in figuring out what to do. Out of the gate, a strong style quick attack nearly knocks the Goom down. Gumi gets 2 turns for Bubble? Oh well, this is awkward. Of course, he's gonna do the same as what we normally do. Strong style to finish us off. Lesson learned on the second attempt, and instead, we go for an Agile style quick attack. Gumi is still gonna do major damage back to us with Bubble, but the next turn is ours, and the boy goes strong style to finish it off. This was the battle that actually showed me to not go all in with strong style for a knockout at the beginning. It just simply will not work. With that out of the way, we get access to Weird Ear, and we jump off the cliff to my first death of the run. All because of being young and dumb. More emphasis on the dumb part. Irida seems irritated with us. See what I did there? We have to fight her for the right to take on the first normal Pokemon. This actually got to be a really close fight towards the end, with Irida somehow getting a double turn after we had just did an Agile style Ember. Irregardless, I couldn't help it this time. The boy fires off that last Ember, and the right to fight is ours. I'm not going to show noble fights since they can be won without actually using a Pokemon. What I will show you though is how the boy gets one-shotted by Kleavor. After it's all said and done, Kleavor becomes unfrenzied and peace returns to the land of the Obsidian Fieldlands once again. The first area is complete, and that means we are able to evolve our beloved boy from Cyndaquil to Quilava. Also, I want to point out, "You're the boy has evolved" is the best line I have ever heard when evolving. It feels weird to evolve a Pokemon during one of these challenges like this, but it's going to be much needed as we progress further in the game. With Quilava in hand and our new mission looming over us, it's time for the mud pits of the Crimson Mirelands. Lots of new Pokemon here to be added to the Pokedex, but more importantly is a fight against Volo for a second time. I learned something new about this fight, being that you don't actually have to win it in order to proceed with the rest of the story. I'm very grateful for that, but at the same time, saddened by knowing just what this game is throwing at us. I'll talk about a few key highlights here though. Togepi has Draining Kiss now, but with us being a fire type, it's not going to deal very much damage. His newest addition is Gibble with the move Bulldoze. The bully is weak to ground type moves, and even with the agile style into strong style attacks, it's actually not enough to get Gibble down. At least he was nice enough to completely heal us up after annihilating us. Let's move on to the trio of sisters who have as much misfortune as their name. It's not quite time to fight all three of them at the same time yet, but instead we're going to start off with Coin. She's not coining any new punchlines from this fight. Still though, it does take a few tries to get her taken down. Sadly, the game quit being handheldy after the Volo fight, and we are now on our own. Also, don't tell her that she looks like and acts like Jupiter from the future. It really pisses her off. Her one Pokemon of choice is Toxicroak, and would you look at that, it's raining. Ember is completely useless, since his damage is extremely low due to rain. It takes so many attempts to have me remember that the boy's special attack is much higher than its physical attack. Swift is the best option here for maximum damage. It's also never going to miss. Gotta take these small wins where we can get them. It takes 3 of our turns in order to knock out the Toxicroak, but at least this time we finally get a win in this area and move to a bigger and better-ish things? It always scares me when he nods like that at night. It's like there's a sinister looking evil plan in his head. Our next little adventure is clearing out the 3 Stunky to get a new base camp in the Mirelands. Easier said than done. The boy got left with 5 HP and basically was dead next turn. With our new base camp set up, those Pokemon get deposited into the pasture to never be seen again. Seriously, I'll release them as available to get the grid items in order to increase our effort values. We want as much effort value in all stats as possible by the end of the game. With Silent but Deadly behind us, the main task is at hand. Wondering how the hell we're gonna beat up Ursaluna. The problem with Ursaluna here is being a fully evolved Pokemon in addition to being a ground type as well. Our first attack will barely do any damage to it. Then our offensive stats get reduced, which makes it even worse. Let's just say the rest of the fight plays out worse and worse. Basically, the boy gets Ursaluna down to about half health, and that's as far as we're gonna make it. A semi-load of grinding takes place afterwards, and the boy goes from 31 to 34. Oh, and guess what? We have Flamethrower now! 80 power special move with stab damage. Yes, please! It's still not quite halfway down with this, but a burn is really gonna help out a lot. Too bad our offensive stats are still going to be reduced. After all of the fire getting thrown around and all of the ground getting bulldozed, the boy is triumphant against Ursaluna. Crimson Mirelands is coming to an end now, sadly, with the Lord of the Ridge, Lilligant, here to dance for us. Since I'm not showing the entire fight, here's a little clip of the boy one-shotting Lilligant. This one is by far my favorite Lord fight out of the 5 of them. Not even because it's easy, but this being the one that really shows you need to use that dodge ability a lot more than you actually should. With the Mirelands becoming saved, it's time for Quilava to evolve, right? Nope! We're actually gonna save that for when we defeat the 3rd Lord in the next area. It makes it a lot more fun that way. While we're stationed in town for a little bit, let's just see how the boy looks in terms of stats now. With all of the catching that has been going on in the background to level him up, we've gotten so many of the grid items to use on the stats. I've picked speed and special attack to max out first, followed by HP and then both defenses. Finally, attack will be the last to be maxed out as well. Here we are at the Cobalt Coastlands, and as we walk down the path, we have gone from the Mirelands to a beautiful beach. Before coming to this place, it's known that there is no lord here, which could actually pose a problem. At least that's the story anyways. Irida is going to help us out in some regard, but before she does, we have to fight her Glaceon and Eevee together. This one isn't too hard since Glaceon gets destroyed by fire moves. Eevee is also very much lower leveled, and it's just there to annoy you with stat drops than anything else. Well, I mean, it's supposed to do that, but on this one, it just actually quick attacked Agile style, and then quick attacked again for minimal damage. Gotta love those fights like that. This area will be just as quick as the Mireland since most of it is running around, looking for people, catching Pokemon, and then eventually going to the main fights of the area. Well, we meet up with Polina, who wants us to find Ishkan on a Palm Hill. Ishkan then tasks us with finding a Dusclops to bring to him. Side note here, ever since I read that on my first playthrough, when I use Dusclops, I'm gonna nickname them to Dusclops. Basculegion needs its favorite food, but Ishkan gets a little too scared. Eventually though, we will gain access to Basculegion, and the Misfortune Sister Trio returns to take away one of the Growlithes. This is actually why we needed the Basculegion to reach the volcano on the other side and get to them. Are you ready for the second hardest fights in the game? We have to fight all three of the sisters back to back with no healing in between them. As soon as we knock out a sister, we will get the experience for the fight though. First up is Clover with her Abomasnow. The boy's going to one-shot this every single time with a flamethrower, so there isn't much need to worry about Clover. The main reason I wanted to show it was for you to see the level. Keep that in mind as we go along here. Queen is next up with her Toxicroak again. A flamethrower doesn't quite knock it out, and we're going to get a nice Mud Bomb back to us. It will obscure the Toxicroak and basically make it harder to hit again. No problem, as it's still going to go down the next turn. Between Clover and Coin, we did level up to 44. Now we have the final sister to deal with, Charm. Charm has Rhydon and Gengar for her Pokemon. Rhydon is our major issue since Bulldoze just really destroys the boy. With that being the case, we have a massive grind ahead of us. It took 5 additional levels and even learning a new move from the move tutor, Iron Tail, in order to finally bring all 3 of them down. Now we are going to get to Charm with full HP since the other 2 sisters are going to go down in 1 hit each. Rhydon is finally a one-shot to Iron Tail, and hope begins to swell up inside of us. Gengar uses Agile style Hypnosis to make the boy drowsy. Drowsy is a lot like paralysis in where sometimes we're going to get to move, others not, but our defense is lowered. Still with hope, the boy fires off a strong style flamethrower to knock out the Gengar. Charm is the fight that shows how the turn order really works in this game. And it sucks. Finally, with those 3 out of the way, Lord of the Isles Arcanine time. As with the previous 2, I'm only showing when the boy comes out and gets destroyed by Arcanine. Agile style Rock Slide into a normal Rock Slide will do it every single time. That's okay though, since you don't have to use a Pokemon to win against the Lords. It just makes it a lot easier. Arcanine is freed from the glow, and our time, even though it was short in the coastlands, is over. It's hard to pick out of these areas which is my favorite, but this one is definitely a contender. With the good boy back to himself, we can move on to something really cool. The final evolution is happening! That's right, we have finished 3 of the areas, and now Hisuian Typhlosion is here. Not only does it evolve into basically my new favorite Pokemon, but it also gains the Ghost typing. Now do you see why I picked him? With the evolution comes a lot of new moves, including the fan favorite Ghost attack, Shadow Ball. He also gets Inferno Parade, which is going to be useful, but way later on. For now, however, let's change his name from The Boy to Best Boy. Can you hardly blame me for doing this? To test out our new ability and powers, let's put them to the test against Adaman. He brings along Leafeon and Eevee in a double fight. With Leafeon, the weakness is in the bag, and Eevee, I know it's bad, but I couldn't resist doing a strong style flamethrower on it. With our 4th mission in tow, I teach Best Boy the Drain Punch move, which will be on for the remainder of the game. And it's going to prove to be so invaluable as well. Our 4th mission takes us to Coronet Highlands, and crazy enough, I actually skipped the first melee fight by accident. I think this is the only fight you can legit skip without feigning your Pokemon. This just means less experience for us, and also less time with Ingo, which actually kinda sucks. I actually really like him in this game. Eventually though, we do have to fight them and cannot shy away from it. They have a Skuntank with them. Skuntank is going to pose a serious threat against us just due to having dark type attacks and using them. First off is Agile Style Night Slash, and then a normal Night Slash to bring Best Boy down to 35 HP remaining. Of course, we're going to take care of it with a Drain Punch to win our passage through the Ancient Quarry. Now, to win the right to use Sneasler and climb the mountain range, me and Best Boy must face off with Warden Ingo, who came from another place just like us. Unfortunately, this battle is going to take place in rain, and so Flamethrower is most likely out of the question. Best Boy is not going to let that be much of a hindrance though, since we have moves that are good to have all around. Machoke will start the fight off for the Warden, and we will start our first turn off with a critical hit Shadow Ball. Not too sure of the moves Machoke has, but I'm really glad it actually went down fast. His second Pokemon is Glitchxcity, which is ground and flying type. Oh joy, another ground type to deal with. It's gonna let us know just how much of a ground type it is by hitting Best Boy with Mud Bomb to obscure himself. It's gonna be a really close call on this one since Glitchxcity is able to reduce Best Boy down to 44 HP. I'm just really glad I kept Swift as a move to negate the effect of Obscure. 2 of those back to back is actually enough to take down the Glitchxcity. His final Pokemon is Tangela, and I went for a very risky move here, even with being paralyzed. Strong Style Flamethrower was just enough to knock it out in one attack, even through paralysis and it raining. With that destination of victory, we have access to the rest of the mountainside and the 4th Lord. Just kidding, we have to fight Melee one final time before we can have a shot at Electrode. This time we not only have Skuntank to deal with, but 2 other poison type Pokemon as well, Zubat and Skorupi. The main one I still want to take down first is Skuntank, since it can deal deadly attack after deadly attack. Agile Style will be our friend here to get as many turns as possible. And would you look at that, Best Boy actually got the burn on Skuntank. Zubat then makes Best Boy a bit drowsy, and Skuntank goes in with a Night Slash for major damage. See what I mean by taking that one out first? We get a double turn now, and first off is Drain Punch on the Skuntank to finish it off. And we're going to get some of our HP back from that. Next move is an Agile Style Flamethrower to get the bug out first. Then we're going to get another turn and knock out the Zubat with just a normal Flamethrower. This fight could have actually gone a lot worse, but all in all, I'm very happy with how it came out. Finally, after all of that, it's time to take on the Lord of the Hollow Electrode. Personally, I really like this Hisuian Pokemon. Lord Fight, on the other hand, can just go straight to hell. Cool part is that Best Boy can easily take down Electrode in one Flamethrower, since it's Grass type. Finally, after it's all said and done, the 4th area is complete, and we have inched ever so close to the end of our journey. The 5th and final area is easily in the top 2 for this game. Obsidian Fieldlands definitely takes that top spot. Akari apparently really likes us to the point of just wanting to battle. For the 3rd time with her, in fact, let's see if she's actually gotten any better. Her Mime Jr. has evolved into Mr. Mime, but even an agile style Shadow Ball is enough to one-shot the living snot out of it. No more barriers for you, mister. Her new addition to the team is Staravia, who starts off with Brave Bird. I mean, under normal circumstances, 90 HP would mean Scaredy Keel. But with just how much HP we have, no worries at all. It even gets knocked out in one agile style flamethrower. Sad, isn't it? Finally is the Pika. Thunderbolt is a nice attack, just not this time. And a strong style flamethrower makes sure we have enough charred electric rat for everyone. With her officially trumped once again, we head into the cold reaches of the Alabaster Icelands. It really is a beautiful area all covered in snow and ice. Our first opponent is the man with abs as chiseled as ice, Garrick. His Pokemon of choice are Glalie and Frostlass together. This won't be too hard of a fight since Best Boy has her weaknesses all wrapped up in a nice, strong style flamethrower. Even the moment that Frostlass gets 2 moves, the best it can muster is a double hex for not even half of Best Boy's HP. I mean, I'm fine with that, just wasn't much of a challenge sadly. Still, the worst is yet to come. I'm not even talking about the Sabi fight coming up, which threw me for a loop the first time playing through this. Rhyperior, Magmortar, and Electivire. All 3 of them, all at the same time. This one actually took a few tries to get through, mainly just getting bad luck on Thunder Wave and when it would come out. The main thing is once Rhyperior is knocked out completely, then we're good to go from that point on since Magmortar can't really do much damage to Best Boy. Finally, Electivire can deal damage, but it only cared about paralyzing the entire time. It basically goes something like this. Rhyperior gets knocked out first, Electivire knocked out second, and finally is Magmortar. Best Boy has Drain Punch in the ready in case things got screwy, but this fight really tested how much we could actually handle. With those 3 out of the way, Braviary needs to test us in order to gain the usage to fly around all the areas. I'd say we passed pretty well on this one. A strong style flamethrower is not quite enough to knock it out on the first move. Brave Bird Agile style back to Best Boy deals around 80 damage, followed by a Roost. Pretty awesome strategy if you ask me. Not good enough of one however, as the next strong style flamethrower is going to do it in. With the assistance of Braviary, we make for the final Lord Arena and Lord fight. Lord of the Tundra Avalugg is a mighty beast and an extremely difficult one to boot. It just loves to throw anything and everything out to hinder you. I'm actually really surprised that Best Boy didn't take more of a beating when getting to fight Avalugg. With all of its super effective attacks, it still takes 2 moves to get the big coffee table top ice thing to submit. We have finally saved the final Lord of the Land from possibly causing havoc across the land. Speaking of the land, check out the sky. The final chapter is here and it's basically a long one. Not a lot of exciting moments to speak of during it either. I mean, getting banished from our home is cool, I suppose, but I guess we gotta figure out what's going on. So let's go see the legendary Pokemon of the lakes known as the Lake Trio. Perfect! We got a piece of spirit to bind the world from each one of them. Sadly, their names are gonna remain a mystery to us. I know who they are, you know who they are. We just gotta play through the game though. This is where I really start to appreciate the story and lore behind Ancient Sinnoh. Just knowing we are getting the red chain from the Lake Trio, but not in the way Cyrus did, just hits those nodes of goodness each time. Speaking of the red chain, there it is. Let's save the world! Because of all the traversing I did, we have been reinstated as a member of the Galactic Team. Now to the Coronet Highlands and to the Mount to end all of this. Sadly, we have a hindrance to deal with. Benny, the potato mochi cook, transforms into a ninja and challenges us to the right to pass through the mountain. You know, world in danger and all, and you can just get right in our way. Benny is not an easy battle to get through. Anything that can happen could in this one. so we're going to need to stay on our feet at all times. His first Pokemon up is Mismagius. Since the turn order is different in this game, Best Boy goes first, and a Shadow Ball will do the trick, but no treat. Gardevoir is his second Pokemon, and she's going to fire off a pretty decent sized psychic attack. Nothing too crazy though. Shadow Ball right back to her will finish Gardevoir in one hit. Now we enter the part of the fight that gets a little bit scary. Gallade happens to be next, and Swords Dance on the first move. I'm going to take a huge risk activating Strong Style Shadow Ball to knock it out. But it'll be better than having to deal with a massive blow from Gallade. Benny's last Pokemon is Sneasler, and this is one Pokemon you don't want to have to deal with longer than a turn. Dire Claw will affect you with a random status effect with each turn. Drowsy just so happens to be the first one, which is going to lower defense. Great. Next up on the Dire Claw list just so happens to be Paralysis. Another great one because our next move is an attempted strong style move, but the Paralysis will take hold. Getting a little more scary now. Next Dire Claw will poison poor Best Boy now, but at least we get the chance to attack. Of course, even with a strong style Flamethrower, it's not going to be quite enough to get it down. Benny pops out a Max Potion, so let's try a Shadow Ball instead. Same thing. Trust me, I held my breath on this attack as I watched it tick down just in case. But our next move will finish off the Sneasler, and we have become triumphant against Wally's ancestor. Essentially, it's time for the final boss fight of the main storyline, Commander Komodo. This fight really tests whether or not you can handle your own in a solo fight. After being completely healed up from the previous fight, Best Boy is ready for one more major showdown. Komodo leads off with Braviary, which will go down in one Shadow Ball. His second Pokemon is Snorlax, and this big lug is ready to high horsepower all over Best Boy. A little over half health isn't something to sneeze at either. Sadly, its speed is going to do it in, since Best Boy will get two moves in a row, both being Drain Punch to not only knock out Snorlax, but regain all of our lost HP. Golem just so happens to be the third member of Komodo's team. Stealth Rock is going to do decent damage and deal chip damage over time. I actually really hate this change, but it is what it is. Drain Punch does pretty good damage and restores Best Boy's HP back up even with the splinters hurting. Max Potion from Komodo, and this gives Best Boy two free moves to do with as we please. How about a double dose of that Drain Punch to keep our HP high? Clefable is where things could have gone wrong. She is going to start off with a Calm Mind to increase offensive and defensive stats. We try out an Agile Style Flamethrower for some damage and get a burn in as well. Her Psychic does just about half of our health, give or take, but Best Boy gets another two moves. A normal Flamethrower followed by a Strong Style Flamethrower will be just enough to take down the Clefable, and we have taken down the final boss of the main story. Okay, I do know that we have more fights along the way before we get to the post-game, but as far as those fights are concerned, this was the hardest one to this point. Now we have a charm fight, but as I've stated before, it's not going to be that difficult. Even if Rhydon does decent damage with its Bulldoze, we're going to be able to use Drain Punch to be able to get our HP back. Even if Gengar deals massive damage with his Shadow Ball, we're going to Shadow Ball right back to knock it out. See, not too bad. Now, it's time for the Primal Dialga in this version, since I picked to have Irida along for the ride and caught Palkia. Honestly, nothing to show here since I don't even get a chance to throw Best Boy out for a chance to attack. With all of that out of the way and the credits roll, we have the post-game. To save as much time as possible and get to the fight that we are all here to see and witness, I'm going to provide as much detail as possible in as short a time as possible. First off, we caught the Spirits of the Lake, Mesprit, Azelf, and Uxie to gain a plate. Next is Heatran for yet another plate. Third is Regigigas for, once again, another plate. Finally, we catch Cresselia for the final plate that we need to give access to him. With his desire to meet Arceus overcoming his judgment, we must fight Volo. This is the hardest fight in the game, and essentially is the final fight in the game. He has 6 Pokemon, plus an extra 2 that we're going to get into a little bit later. His team is going to remind you of a certain champions, same with the song playing. I mean, if the first Pokemon didn't do it, then I don't know what else will. Best Boy went through so many different movesets before we finally chose the perfect one. Drain Punch, Calm Mind, Shadow Ball, and Rest. Remember, this is a no item in battle challenge, but not a ban on HP recovery. This fight took 236 attempts and 3 full days to finally clear. We also have our first official level 100 in a solo challenge just due to the sheer damage output of each Pokemon. Let's break this down for you. Volo starts with Spiritomb. We're going to start off with a Calm Mind to mainly increase our offensive stats. Best Boy gains an additional move and uses Shadow Ball for the takedown on Spiritomb. Volo's second Pokemon is Hisuian Arcanine. It will always use Rock Slide to deal some damage, usually ranging between 90 to 110 HP. Our next move is Drain Punch to knock it out and restore our HP all the way back to full. Crazy how that works, right? Volo's gonna send out Lucario next, and sometimes we'll use Crunch, other times it'll use Bulk Up. This time was Crunch, which is perfectly fine with me. A single Drain Punch knocks it out and restores our HP right back up to full again. Sadly, by this point, Calm Mind will fall off, and we're gonna have to take another turn to get that right back on. Garchomp is up next with Earth Power for some decent damage. Is it starting to remind you of anyone yet? Best Boy will use an Agile style Drain Punch to get it below half HP. We're also gonna get a second move to go ahead and knock it out with another Drain Punch, bringing Best Boy back to full HP. Volo's 5th Pokemon is Roserade, which will start off with spikes for super effective damage and to do chip damage over time. Shadow Ball quickly dispatches the Roserade though, and we are on to his final Pokemon, Togekiss. Togekiss can eat your lunch if you don't proceed correctly. If it doesn't start off with Air Cutter, then it will start off with Calm Mind. We're going to set up a Calm Mind as well and get a free move to use a Shadow Ball for about half HP. Now comes the Air Cutter, but it misses! This is actually perfect since we need to go into the next phase of the fight with as much HP as possible. I'm going to pop an Agile Style Rest and hit it with a Strong Style Shadow Ball to finish it off for good this time. Here we go. The actual hard part of this entire fight. Giratina. Dragon Ghost with the most powerful ghost type attack in the game, which is super effective against us and dealing stab damage as well. Now you can see why this took over 200 attempts to actually get through. Fair warning you, this is brutal. First off, we're going to Calm Mind to reduce as much damage as possible. Giratina's Shadow Force comes right in and deals 130 damage even with an increased defense. Yeah. Ow. Oh, also it obscures Giratina as well. So now it's a chance to be able to actually hit it. We're going to get a double turn, but our first turn goes to waste since the obscuring forces a mist. And the second one actually gets Giratina pretty good. Now we're going into more luck-based territory since we need to heal ASAP after the next Shadow Force. First move is a normal Calm Mind, and then second is an Agile Style Rest, which will cause the Drowsy status. Remember, chance of not moving at all on the turn. Shadow Force again, and another Rest, this time normal, to get all HP back. Now we're going to have a 33% chance to actually move, plus a raised evasion on Giratina. It's a damn miracle we actually hit it to knock out for the second phase. But it's not over yet. Here's the third and final phase, and the hardest phase. Origin Form Giratina appears, and is completely healed to 100% HP with no status effects, even if you had one. Our stats also are going to return to normal at this time, which is not good. Look at the damage Giratina just dealt. 308 HP in just one attack. Now each move we get is a 33% chance of failing. Even one fail and it's all over, and we start back at the fight with Volo's team of 6. We do get 2 moves though. First one, I'm going to use a Calm Mind to increase attack. And now for the riskiest move in this entire game. Strong Style Shadow Ball. It actually gets through both checks for accuracy and drowsiness. And it finally one-shots Origin Form Giratina. Like I said, there is another fight which is Arceus right after this, but unfortunately I'm not going to show any part of that because this was the main ending of the game for me. Getting to Arceus would take hours upon hours to get to, and I do not have that time sync to be able to put in for this. But as these credits roll, my final thoughts on this challenge are these. I'm never doing another solo challenge of Legends Arceus again. I love this game, and I will still love it even with going through it with a solo Pokemon. But this particular challenge left a bad taste in my mouth for the solo runs of this game. I imagine it would be easier with Hisui and Samurott getting through the final Volo fight, and eventually Giratina's forms, but I wanted to use my favorite Pokemon and mascot to go along the ride with me. Never did I expect that at the end of the day, I would be crying happy tears just from finishing this run due to 3 days of getting destroyed one after another. I hope you enjoyed this run as much as I enjoyed putting it all together for you though. Next week we get back to Brilliant Diamond with the disaster Pokemon Absol. Remember, Scarlet and Violet are just around the corner. I can't wait for them. I'll see you next time.